Now we got these cut out, and see we left the center section intact right here. Okay, so now this is that final critical cut. I'm going to go ahead and separate the halves. And we got the tape there, just cut it in half. Okay, so we've got both of these marked, and they should be top of that line there. So now, this critical cut is we need to cut this off square with that line there, because the firewall is going to mount up against that, and it needs to be as close to straight up and down as possible, because we're going to have to glue in the thrust line and get that set. So the flusher that is, the better off it is. And it's not hard. All I simply do, in this case, I find using just a blade without the knife on it. That's why I like these knives. Sharp blade. All you simply have to do is just cut along this line using the vertical line as your guide. Just do it a little bit low. And just if you line the blade up straight that way, and let the blade do the lining up, and then we just want to cut out that little piece right there so it's flush. I'll do the other side. There we go. Now we should have the two pieces. Line it just like that. There we go. So we glue it together, and this piece should be flush. Now when we mount the motor mount, there's a technique we're going to use to make sure that the motor mount's in straight and along the thrust line. But that's how they cut out, and that's all the cutouts done. Next, we're going to go ahead and cut out the battery bay compartment before we join the wing halves together. Now, laying out the battery bay, I've got a couple. I got a nanotech here and a zippy. These packs are all about the same size. So I'm going to make mine lengthwise like 4 1/8 inches long, and and the pack is 1 5/16 inches wide. I like to add like a 1/16 on each side of that to allow for straps and stuff. So I'm going to make it 1 7/16 inches wide. So first thing I did was, now on the plans it shows the battery's going to start 2 3/4 inches back from the nose, where I've got this marked. Obviously, make sure when you mark that back that 2 3/4 is your battery's not going to interfere with the spars. Now if everything's set in like they're measured out, it should be no problem. But so we're going to cut out the battery bays first. So anyway, we're going to make a mark 2 3/4 inch here. That's the start of the battery. Measure 1 7/16 inch back and draw another line vertical. We'll do the same thing on both sides. Now laying out the battery bay, we're going to do kind of the same way we did this one here. We got our lines marked. We're going to put our two halves together, lining everything up flush back here. Everything's going to be important to line up flush back here, because you're going to keep that straight. We're going to tape these together, and then we're going to take these lines, these dots obviously, and then using a protractor we're going to measure out some lines and draw out where our actual battery is going to go. You know, never hurts to make sure that it's going to fit in there. So now, separate the two tape halves. Now we're going to cut the battery bay out using the same technique we used for the back right there. We're just going to take the reason we do it this way because it's easy to make your cut straight on this battery bay. It's nothing worse than trying to gouge from the top and it's all screwed. When you're also making these cuts, try not to mess up this area right here on the wing saddle. We're going to be gluing these together, gluing back together, but more importantly, we're going to be cutting out parts of it for fairings for the firewall. So try not to cut those up too much. Like this can probably be done without it. So all you got to do is, just like we did on the other one, is just use the blade for a guide going down and just cut it out, and then same thing there. Okay, now we got our battery cutouts done. See if you take your time, they're nice and square. And matching up, it should go out, and the battery fit in right there. So now it's time to glue these wing halves together. Got everything cut out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these two wing halves right here, we're going to glue them together. We're going to use CA. We're going to take the some CA and some kicker. kicker. And we're just going to carefully line them up. And squeeze them together. And make sure you're using the bottoms, there's the top and bottom of these wing halves. No, we're only going together, bottom and bottom. They should fit flush, or real close to it, the way they're cut out. They should be cut out identical. That'll give you a nice tray to work in. Next, we're going to glue these wing halves together. We're going to use CA. Where everything's getting to be CA'd together. Using the same technique, we're going to use CA and kicker to glue these together. Now to glue the center section together, we're going to use CA. I like to use this hobby shop stuff. You have to go to the hobby shop anyway. It gets some missed set. Although you can buy a kicker. I get this at Woodcraft. And it's about the same price, I think. 11, somewhere between 10 and 12 bucks. It'll last you quite a long time. Again, the thick type of CA glue. Now you can use, I've had good luck with things like Super Weld. In fact, I was using this to put in the spars. This stuff just takes a little bit longer to dry. In fact, it may be even a little stronger. But anyway, to do this, what we're going to do, we're going to glue the wing halves together. Now that we've got the bottom pieces glued together, we took a small piece of wax paper, put it right here in the center so we don't glue the cores to the shells. Okay, and if you split it right there, it'll help it fit a little better. So now, what we're simply going to do is we're going to put some CA on this thing here. Use plenty of CA. We're going to spray some kicker. Got to kind of work quick. Kicker on the other half. Now when you set it in the wing core here to line them up, it's important that we line this back part flush right here. The firewall. That's what has to be flush. If your nose is off a little bit, it's really no big deal because you're going to be cutting that for a camera. And now we're just going to push it together. Make sure it's in the shells and everything's flat. And we're just going to put it together and let that kicker kick off. There we go. And now we've got the two halves glued together. And we'll just let sit there and dry for just a minute or so.